The Hill points out, shell-shocked Democrats mull a path forward. Really, the Democrats are in total disarray. This is what you need to understand. There are new alliances and new paradigms that are going to be coming out of this election. As they point out, the Democrats failed to pick up much in terms of congressional races. They said they got about a half dozen seats, but they were hoping, without reason, to get double-digit gains. They said the results led to plenty of finger-pointing as to why the party's message failed to resonate more broadly, particularly with working-class white voters who propelled Donald Trump into the White House. Do you think it might have had something to do with the fact that both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were saying to people like in the coal industry, we're going to bankrupt you. We're going to take away coal mining jobs. I mean, that's the arrogance of these people. To think that you're going to come into this place, that you're going to take people's freedom, you're going to take their dignity by shutting down their jobs, by exporting their jobs, by importing workers. That is the essence of this. It was the Democrats who said, after all, it was James Carville, the advisor to Bill Clinton, that said it's the economy, stupid. And it was stupid of them not to realize that it was the economy that they have been working very hard at shutting down for the last 8 years in everybody's face. They pointed out, as one analyst said, a Democrat from New Jersey, we fail to understand that white men, basically labor people, working people, have to be a part of our universe. See, that's the racism of the Democrat Party. And I think it's interesting that they would say white men are working people. Look, there are working people of every race and color. There's working people who are black, who are Hispanic. They were also voting for Donald Trump because they looked at what the Democrats have done and they said, things are not getting better for us. They're getting worse. Even the Hispanic people who have come in and become American citizens who wanted to be a part of this system, who came in and did this legally, they don't want to see the borders being overrun by drug cartels, by terrorists, by cheap labor that is coming in at an unrestricted rate. They said they have to be a part of our universe. And if we don't make them part of our universe, we're going to continue to have a difficult time. Exactly. See, as the article goes on to say, the Democrats have long stressed diversity. No, what they've been stressing is division. You have to understand that it really is division. It's something that wins elections for them, but it doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't solve our problems to divide people. We need to go back and reclaim the dream that Martin Luther King put out there. And I think this is the dream of white people who voted for Obama, who gave him a chance. And as we saw in many areas, North Carolina, where I lived there, he won in 2008. And yet people looked at that. It didn't take them long to understand this guy was nothing but a token placeholder. He was not about governing. He was not about solving problems. And so we have to stop judging people by the color of their skin or by their gender or by any of these other divisions that the Democrats put out there and start judging them by the content of their character. And Obama, as Michael Smith points out, did nothing to restrain things. Say the liberals gave us Trump because they didn't really address the underlying problems that Americans have. This is attorney Michael Smith talking to RT's Chris Hedges in an article from RT. That's precisely it. He said the attack on the free trade agreements were key, he said. The states that he won, which had gone over to Obama twice, the Rust Belt, he said, where I come from, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they all voted for him based on his demagoguery about how he was going to bring jobs back. Well, you know what? It's not demagoguery. If you do the kind of tax cuts that he's talking about, if you give working people who are making up to $30,000 a year zero taxes that they have to pay, that is a huge difference in their life. That's thousands of dollars each year, a difference in a Donald Trump presidency versus a Hillary Clinton presidency. That's something people should be celebrating about. And it's a small minority of people who are rioting in the streets who don't want people to understand that. Also today, we saw Trump and Putin talking on the phone. The Hill points out Trump talks to Putin, looks forward to an enduring relationship. I wonder if they quoted the Rodney King saying, can't we all just get along? Why do we have to have this division, this anger, this fighting? Let's just try to de-escalate things. It was called détente once upon a time, and we celebrated that, the de-escalation of tensions between the Russians and the West. And yet now it's supposed to be a virtue for Hillary Clinton and Obama to reset the Russian relationship, which is really a reset of the Cold War. They point out President-elect Donald Trump accepted congratulations on his White House win from Vladimir Putin today. He told the Russian leader he'd look forward to a strong and enduring relationship with Russia and its people. RT says the two leaders agree that they share a common view on uniting efforts in the fight with a common enemy number one, international terrorism and extremism. But as we'll find later in this broadcast, I'm going to tell you that the Obama administration, John Kerry in particular, said, no, it's global warming and climate change is as big a threat as ISIS. See, that's the detachment from reality, and we're a week into this. We shouldn't expect that the Democrats are going to come back to reality that quickly. Meanwhile, there's division within the Republican Party. As I point out, there's new alliances because Donald Trump is not a creature of the GOP establishment. So there's new alliances that are being formed, and we have to watch very carefully what is going to happen with this. The Hill points out Republicans face division over Obamacare repeal. What's going to happen with that? How is that going to be done? They say congressional Republicans are looking how far to go in terms of repealing and replacing Obamacare. Exactly what does that mean? It's a catchy title, but the devil is in the details. They say, of course, senators like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee are pushing for the law to be ripped out root and branch, but then you've got other, what they call centrist Republicans, I would differ with that, worried about millions of people being kicked off insurance rolls if Obamacare is repealed. And they quote a couple of senators from West Virginia, from Mississippi, that are very concerned about people losing their health insurance. Listen, you have to understand the such thing as a free lunch. The way they ought to be selling this to the American public, explaining it to the American public, is that they're going to have markets, real markets, not the phony, quote-unquote, markets that Obama set up. Those are not real markets. No, we're going to have real markets instead of mandates. We're going to have choice instead of coercion by the IRS, by an army of IRS agents. 16,000 IRS agents were added to push through Obamacare's fines and mandates on us. That is something we all ought to be celebrating. And they're all acting, I think it's very interesting, that they're all acting as if nobody knows what Donald Trump is proposing. He's had a health care reform plan up for over a year on his site. And if you look at it, it goes down and it sets up essentially the mechanisms for a marketplace. It gives people incentives instead of mandates and fines, okay? It offers them tax deductions instead of fines. It gives them information about health providers as well as health insurance companies. It opens up competition across state lines. All these people who are always talking about free trade, the establishment Democrats, the establishment Republicans, say we need free trade. And yet they have opposed free trade within the United States on health insurance. See, only when it doesn't impact their little monopoly do they really want free trade. And so what Donald Trump is proposing is incentives. He's proposing ownership. He's proposing allowing people to have their own money first, because, of course, health insurance is important. So why not allow us to spend our money on our own health care before we have to send it to Washington? If you really meant it, Obama and Hillary, that's what you would allow to happen. And that's what's in this plan, this health care reform plan that Donald Trump put out over a year ago. And yet everybody is pretending, well, you don't know where it's going to go. Just as they continually say to him, well, are you really going to build a wall now that you're president? I mean, weren't you just lying to everybody just to get elected? It's like, no, I'm really going to build a wall, and I'm really going to deport people who are criminals, who are in the system, who came here illegally. So again, on healthcare reform, we're going to have the information to make the choices. We're going to have the incentives to make the choices. We're going to have tax deductions and healthcare savings accounts, so we have the financial ability to make those decisions. We're also going to have information about insurance companies, competition with them, and competition with healthcare providers. That's really what we need. That's what we ought to be celebrating. Now, there was an interesting article that came out. It was on the Drudge Report that don't complain that the polls were wrong. And it had some interesting quotes in it. They said, we're hearing, oh, the polls were all wrong. And yes, they were all wrong. Sorry about that. But that's the reality. You can't really escape it. They say it reveals a complete misunderstanding of what a poll is and what standard forecasts in general are supposed to do. They say many people confuse forecasts with fortune telling. A fortune teller, they say, seeks to predict the future with certainty, an endeavor that I view with suspicion. And I have to say, I view that with suspicion as well.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. we are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to